Previously on Battle Chasers. With her legendary father gone missing, young Gully is the only person left who can protect his legacy. Aided by the war golem Calibretto and the magical Knolan, Gully's pursuers were fought off. But they weren't defeated until Gully put on her father's gauntlets, gaining the strength to move mountains. Meanwhile, the alluring red Monika attempted to recruit the mourning swordsman Garrison to her cause, but he turned her down. Will King Veneer be able to help Gully? Will Garrison continue to turn a blind eye to the world? Find out as the battle continues on Comic Book Breakdown episode 11.3, Haunted by the Past.
In the capital lands, fate has brought together 5 unlikely allies. From Vandalheim to Capital City, from the Cyrene Valley to the Crescent Isle, they will become known as the Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun, Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun. They stand against evil with all of their might. Wherever they go, well, you know there's a fight. They're gonna win the battle by the end of the night. So who the hell are they, you wanna know, right? Well, they're the Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun. There is Garrison. I don't want to use this sword, but I will if you force me. And we've got Calibretto.
I was made for war, but I will fight for peace.
And there's Gully. I'm gonna find my father, and I'll slug anyone who tries to stop me. And Knolan. It takes years to master magic, and I've spent them, you punk. And we've got Red Monika. Don't worry, boys. I'm here to save you. They stand against evil with all of their might. Wherever they go, well, you know there's a fight. They're gonna win the battle by the end of the night. So who the hell are they, you wanna know, right? They're the Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun. Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun. They're the Battle Chasers. The airship containing Red Monika and her 2 lackeys, who we will learn are named Bengis for the short one and Akiman for the taller of the 2, still approaches Skyhold Prison at the start of issue 3. Monika looks to Bengis, asking if he's sure that this will work. Bengis opens a circular hatch in the deck and she shines a light down. In the shadows are what appears to be hammerhead sharks, but with eyes all along the front of their hammer. The creatures twist and snap, Bengis informing Monika that the creatures are quite docile unless they're exposed to unnatural light. Monika stares daggers at him as she shuts off her flashlight. Thanks for the heads up. In an attempt to distract his mistress from his lack of foresight, Bengis suggests that they go over the plan one more time. Aw, thanks for filling us in, Bengis. I appreciate that. Skyhold is the home to numerous criminals, with special cells for the worst offenders. A group of monks, called the Mentu, use their psionic powers to secure the prison's most dangerous offenders. Above the Mentu and their mental cells are regular holding cells, and this is where they should find their target, Rayon del Soya. Breaking him out should be fairly easy. No one wants to go to Skyhold, so all of their defenses are aimed towards keeping people inside. Someone with knowledge of Skyhold's interiors, like former inhabitants Bengis and Akiman, should be able to get in fairly easily. Monika seems only lightly surprised by their former incarceration. Monika and Bengis then mount up on the strata rays, which are the hammer-headed creatures that we saw in the hold. Turns out they have huge manta ray-like wings, and they can glide through the air on their own. Special rigs clipped onto the wings and over their backs allow for their riders to pilot them just by shifting their weight. The pair drops from the airship, both of them enjoying the ride. However, Monika is concerned about them getting seen by the prison. Bengis then explains that the maintenance crew of Skyhold uses the rays regularly, so even if they are seen, no one will give them a second thought. Having finally gotten a feel for the Ray's movements, Monika instructs Bengis to prepare for their escape. She is going to go after Del Soya. And I hate that. Bengis just finished talking about how easily he and Akiman could break in thanks to their time in Skyhold, which Monika does not have. And if that's the case, then why is Monika the one going in? Well, I mean, obviously the reason that Monika is going in is because she is our leading lady, not Bengis and Akiman. We should have been given a reason why, though. Monika could have wanted Bengis to come along, but he's a huge coward and then he declines. Or perhaps he simply doesn't want to go back into the super maximum prison where he was held for an unknown amount of time. I would buy either of those explanations, especially considering Bengis' moment with the strata rays. Did he forget to tell her about the unnatural light thing as a joke? Or did he actually forget? Because if he actually forgot and he's the source of intel regarding Skyhold, then I would be more than a little bit worried. Inside the prison, we find Rayon Del Soya, the most notorious sky pirate on Gaia. Gaia? Is that the name for the world of battle chasers? Like we have Earth, they have Gaia? Or is Gaia just the name of the continent that the story is happening on? Or the country, maybe? Is Gaia one of the civilized/unified territories that I have heard oh so much about? Anyway, Rayon is set to hang in 3 days, so he's been praying for some relief. And today may just be his holy day. The door to his cell swings open, and there stands Red Monika. Hallelujah! Monika takes his handcuffs off, and the two begin to leave, although Rayon is a bit surprised by all of this. The two pass by a cluster of guards that are tied and bundled against the wall. Rayon looks from them to Monika. He admits that he's pretty impressed. Well, Monika isn't flattered. They are on the clock, and she's got a delivery to make, so let's move. Elsewhere in Skyhold, a pair of guards spots a lone strata ray circling for a long time. One of them goes to call it in, which is when Bengis drops from the ceiling. He can't allow that. With a dash, he douses the candle that lights the room and kills the 3 guards in a blur. A fourth one just manages to draw a gun on him, holding it to his face. Bengis bites through the barrel of the gun and grins. The frightened guard asks, "What the hell is he?" And Bengis' grin grows. His reply is one word. Hungry. Ooh, that's a cool scene. Monika continues to lead Rayon through the prison. He asks her who hired her to free him, and Monika doesn't really care to answer that question. Rayon, however, insists. He has some friends, sure, but he has even more enemies who might want a more personal hand in his death. He holds a pistol to her head, having grabbed it off of one of the downed guards. Who hired her? Monika answers by grabbing Rayon's junk and crushing it. He shrieks, spasms, and accidentally fires the gun, although he misses Monika. Monika spins quickly, hitting him with the back of her fist. Firing that gun is as good as sounding an alarm. Does he want the whole place to hear that? Wait a minute. The steel ball that was fired from the gun ricochets. Monika looks around. Aren't they under the mana containment chamber? The bullet bounces again, and the resulting explosion rocks the prison as the bullet strikes the mana containment chamber. A mile below, in the Mentu portion of the prison, the monks sit and hum, channeling their power. Mystic glyphs surround each monk and cell, a blue glow lighting everything. The circular cells are barely in frame, giving us little idea of the prisoners held within. But then, some dust falls from the ceiling and settles on the head of one of the monks. He stops humming and carefully brushes it away, curious. Next, he looks up, and a massive piece of stone, shaken loose by the blast, crushes him. The other monks snap to quickly. One of them shouts for them all to concentrate. They cannot let their prisoners escape. But it's too late. A blue hand, decorated with golden designs, shoots out of one of the cells and crushes the monk's head. Man, that is the third person to have their head crushed with one hand in this book. I'm going to have to start a counter at this rate. Up above all of that, Monika and Ryan dash through the prison, a wall of blue-green energy closing in behind them, Indiana Jones style. Monika calls Bengus over a communicator. They are going to need a lift, like, now. She and Ryan jump through a window, landing safely, if roughly, on Bengus's ray. Behind them, Skyhold Prison is a ball of green and blue flames. I'm sure that's not going to come back to bite anyone. That's going to be fine. At 9 pages, this prison break occupies almost half of the story-related pages here in issue 3, but it really does feel like a much longer scene. It's so cinematic. The pacing here is great, with a sense of action and fun running throughout it. The dialogue between Monika and Ryan is fun, with him initially taking her appearance as a joke from the guards. This scene also really shows us how skilled Monika and Bengus are, our first real taste of them in action. It also hints that Bengus is more than just a weirdo swordsman, given that he can bite through and seemingly eat a gun. I kinda suspect that Bengus might have also eaten the guard, as he tells Monika that he stopped for a bite when she questions the timing of his rescue. She clearly doesn't know everything there is to know about Bengus, and at this point, Sharif and Mad aren't saying anything either. But god dang if this wasn't a fun time. The explosion of Skyhold is visible even in Thorn's Glen, where a pair of guards watch over the burnt remains of the House of Aramis. The bright lights in the sky are the perfect diversion for a mysterious, shadowed figure. Whoever this is clearly Garrison. Clearly Garrison, based upon his eyes, his hair color, and his general build. But we aren't told that, and it's kept mysterious throughout the whole issue. I'm going to spoil it for you now. It's Garrison, and he sifts through the remnants of the house. He finds a single scrap of green, a piece of either Aramis's cloak or Gully's clothing. One of the guards hears Garrison and shouts at him, but he's gone before they can even get close. One of the men doubts that anyone was even there to begin with, but the other one swears that he saw someone take something. In a nearby tree, Garrison clutches at the scrap of cloth. Hi, Garrison. Welcome to our main narrative. Glad to have you along. While Garrison spends the rest of the night tracking Gully, we move to Capital City, the largest city in the civilized/unified/ let's add civil to that list territories. Man, these territories are getting all kinds of adjectives in this book. We meet King Veneer, who is in a meeting with his council. Veneer is an older man with gray-white hair that is slicked back from his forehead. A simple golden crown with a ruby set in the front helps to hold that hair back. The rest of his thin form is lost beneath a royal red cloak, with the shoulder portions made of some kind of white and black animal fur. Veneer has a large nose, high cheekbones, and a small bit of beard at his chin. He very much looks the part of a king. The counselors repeat their warnings about the attack on Skyhold. A neighboring land, Isobar, had shaky treaties with them to begin with, and this attack threatens that peace. A military man suggests that, if they can capture those responsible and turn them over to Isobar, it might work as a peace offering. Veneer agrees, granting him 48 hours to do so. Another councilman asks how they'll be dealing with the death of Duke Raimon, who we saw killed last issue. Veneer states that the elite military strike force called the Martial Paladins shall be investigating, and they are to report only to him. The door to the council chamber opens slowly as the king's next appointment arrives. And it's Maestro, the head of the Martial Paladins. The fear instilled by Maestro is palpable, and the councilmen literally flee from the room. Veneer smiles. He could swear that Maestro enjoys that. If he does, the glee does not show on Maestro's face. He is taller than Veneer, and well, I guess technically he's not African American, given that neither Africa nor America exist in Battle Chasers. He's black, I guess, with a grim, hardened face. Multiple rings pierce Maestro's ears and his left eyebrow. A thin scar runs down over that eye, leaving it white and empty. He is bald, save for another tail at the back. That's 4 of those, I believe, but a stylized tattoo winds around his head instead. The pattern is shaped like a snake with diamond scales, and it comes together at a stylized skull on his forehead. He also has a thin mustache-goatee combo framing his powerful frown. In the words of Mitch Hedberg, this guy has a lot of cranial accessories. Maestro hands his king a rolled piece of parchment. He's gotten the list of escaped prisoners, although it was costly. Veneer isn't worried so long as the bodies can't be led back to him. He scans the list. Who here should he be worried about? Maestro's answer doesn't please the king. He should worry about them all.
Oh, well.
Sounds like Artemis will be needed more than ever. Veneer asks how the search for the hero and his daughter goes. Maestro recaps what we saw in the prelude, adding in the detail that those werewolves are actually called Lycolots. Lycolots? I know it's based off of the word lichen, but it's an E instead of an A, which leads me to think that it's Lycolots. So I'm going to go with Lycolots. Let's go with Lycolots. As he does so, the camera changes to follow Garrison instead. He continues along Gully's trail, finding the dead Lycolots, loose nuts and bolts from Calibretto, and the war golem's massive footprints. Maestro finishes by speculating that the attack may have been personal in nature. Veneer cares little for why the attack happened. He wants the girl found. So we follow Garrison along the trail until he catches up with Gully and the dudes, the camera's focus following along with the narration. These are some solid scene transitions in this issue. Like moving from Skyhold to Garrison, then Garrison to Veneer, then Veneer back to Garrison, and now Garrison on to Gully. The dialogue cues that happen along with these scenes work very smoothly, and they super help to lead the reader from one scene to the next, often across very large patches of land here in the sometimes civil, sometimes uncivil, sometimes territories, while not thinking that you're going off the rails. This is some solid plotting on the part of Sharif and Mad, and on whichever of them wrote the script. So we've caught up with Gully, Calibretto, and Knolan. The trio have changed their clothes, burying Calibretto in cloth again, and they're making their way through the bright and sunny woods. Gully does not have her father's gauntlets on, but she is wearing a backpack. She sits upon Calibretto's shoulder, asking politely how long until they reach Capital City. Knolan is not very confident that they will get there by lunch, assuming that they're on the right trail. Gully snacks upon a fruit, exclaiming that she is starving. She then asks Calibretto if King Veneer can really help her find her father. Calibretto has full confidence that Veneer will help if he has something to gain from it. Knolan tells Gully not to take Calibretto's words to heart. You see, it was Veneer who passed the law ordering for the destruction of all war golems after their role in the war. That's why Calibretto has to hide himself, too. Gully immediately feels bad for putting Calibretto at risk. Maybe seeing the king isn't such a good thing. But Calibretto doesn't mean to shatter her hope. Veneer is not a great man, he'll admit, but he is a good king. Surely he'll help her. She'll never be safe from whoever is hunting her otherwise. The camera then moves above the party to where someone, who is Garrison, hunts the group. But he could be a bad guy. You don't know. I don't know. We haven't confirmed that it's Garrison yet. I think that Sharif and Mad are trying to build suspense with this type of crap. Like, maybe this mysterious figure is an actual villain or a threat. They keep Garrison bundled up and his face is half obscured during all of this, so they're clearly trying to save his identity for the big reveal. But, it's totally Garrison. Sure, Garrison has no cause to announce himself to our party, who he suspects may have kidnapped Gully, so there is a story reason for him to stay hidden. But even then, Garrison is watching the three. He can see that neither Calibretto or Knolan are hurting Gully or threatening her. They're just having a conversation. So while on the one hand, this scene makes sense for Garrison to stay hidden, it also doesn't make a lot of sense given the context that it's happening in. I would also note that all of the villain-ish kind of people that have appeared in this book so far are so clearly villains that to have a normal-looking human who is shadowing the party that maybe looks like Garrison, but I don't know, maybe it couldn't be Garrison for some reason, just seems totally out of the theming of this book. It just makes Garrison seem like an even more likely pick for who this mysterious tracker is. Calibretto continues chatting with Gully until he steps on a bed of dead leaves, and it falls out from under him. He drops into the pit, but Gully hangs in the air for a moment, like a cartoon character, allowing Garrison to snatch her out of midair. He jumps into the trees like Tarzan and takes off, Gully shouting for Calibretto. Knolan swings his staff and launches off a firebolt after them. The flame homes in on Garrison, and it strikes the tree branch that he had just reached. Garrison drops, while Knolan shouts for Calibretto to get into the fight as it climbs out of the pit. The golem approaches and towers over Garrison as it orders him to release Gully. Now, unconscious, because I guess she got knocked out from the fall, Garrison does set Gully down, but he uses his free hand to grab a handful of smoke grenades which he throws into Calibretto's face. Reeling from this, Calibretto can do little as Garrison climbs over him in order to escape. Calibretto transforms one hand into a machine gun and then lays down a line of fire, cutting off that escape. The warrior now pulls a bola out of his cloak, throwing it so that it wraps around Calibretto's gun, jamming its works. Knolan then lays down a track of flame, further trapping their assailant. He shouts that he hasn't killed a man in years, but he will do so in order to protect the girl. Garrison grabs his cloak and pulls it off in a dramatic-ass sweep, revealing himself. He says over his shoulder that they have something in common then. Alright, look at these plot threads starting to come together. About time, if you ask me. However, this scene isn't just about pulling Garrison in, it's also a demonstration of his fighting skills. We've seen Calibretto fight off Lycelots, and Knolan clearly knows magic, but Garrison holds his own against them both. He utilizes traps and the landscape to foul up the big threat of Calibretto, and then he uses smart tools to try to escape. We have been told repeatedly that Garrison is one hell of a swordsman, and right out of the gate, we get to see why he's a skilled fighter, even if he doesn't have that sword. That's good, and I like that, and we're meant to be asking, if Garrison is such a good swordsman, why doesn't he have a sword? This is going to become an important character point for Garrison, and they are very subtly setting it up here. I realized this issue that most of the random capitalization that I complained about back in the prelude is gone by now. There is very little in the way of narration boxes here, actually, so maybe it just hasn't had a chance to be a problem, but I figured that I would point it out nonetheless. That is a good credit to Sharif, Mad, and the lettering team. This issue was also 2 months late. Issue 2 having been published in May of 1998, while Issue 3 was published in July of that year. This doesn't impact on us at all, as we're reading this comic as a back issue, but it does mark the first time that Battle Chasers would be late. It certainly wouldn't be the last time that Battle Chasers would be late. For example, Issue 4 is cover dated for October 1998, so it was 3 months late now. Yeesh. Issue 4 opens on the borders of King Veneer's territory, at a squat, round, brown building that is Armored Outpost Zeta. The outpost looks like a fat blister on the brown landscape glistening in the rain. Narration tells us that these kinds of outposts are the only line of defense against would-be invaders. As such, they are staffed by the best that Veneer's military can offer, each of them bound to a strict code of honor. I can count 4 soldiers right off of the bat, clad in gray and brown armor and armed with guns, rifles, and blades. One of them, a woman with a black stripe running over her left eye, scans the landscape with binoculars. They have reason to believe that Skyhold's escaped prisoners are going to make their way to the capital, and the outpost stands in their way. All of the escapees are from the maximum security wing of Skyhold, so if they encounter anyone strange, they are to shoot, to kill. Then Stripe pauses. Her binoculars zoom in on a figure. A female figure. She has dark brown skin and a thin, athletic body. Blonde, maybe white hair hangs in her sullen face, while pale, torn clothing clings to her lithe frame. One of the soldiers, Lars, hoots. "A damsel in distress! Cha-cha-ching!" Stripes shouts at Lars to return to his post, but he's too eager. She follows, aiming a 6-shooter at the young woman while shouting for her to get on her knees. Lars is down with that, enjoying the view as she kneels slowly. He tries to defend her verbally. She's just a scared, helpless girl, and here's a big, strong man who will help protect her. But Stripes isn't taking any chances. The report said that one of the escapees was a woman, and as such, she can't risk it. A few feet away, at the outpost, another soldier cocks his rifle and takes aim. The young woman holds her head. An intricate bracelet adorns her right forearm. Stuttering, she first says please, then run, and finally, too late. A massive form erupts from the ground before her. The land cracks, toppling Lars over, and Stripes shouts to fire at will. The figure, which speaks in the third person, promises that Bullgrim will punish the vessel for trying to warn the soldiers. Solidifying, Bullgrim grabs Stripes in one hand, her bullets passing clean through him. The outpost opens fire as well, but it seems to do no good. Lars, however, has taken shelter and is pulling a Private Hudson from the Aliens movie. He's ranting in fear, watching his fellow soldiers die in only a handful of moments. A voice behind him tells Lars not to mourn for his friends. They have gone to a better place, now freed from the treachery and betrayal of the world. Lars turns towards the voice. The other speaker is a tall male just bristling with muscle. His skin is a dark blue, it's almost black, and he is decorated with golden shapes or glyphs. This is the prisoner who killed the Mentu last issue. Lars tells this guy that Veneer won't let this stand. He will send hundreds of people to kill them. The blue man finds it ironic that so many should have to die for the sins of one man. He strikes Lars in his armored chest, the blow having enough force to shatter that armor and kill him. The blue man only wants the one man who ever defeated him, who imprisoned all of these prisoners. The other escapees gather around, as the monk, named Brass Demur, declares that he will be the one to kill that man. Behind Brass, another escapee protests their alliance. While he is shorter than Brass, this guy is built like a tank, with thick arms and a broad chest. He is clearly a strong guy. He has no desire for this crap. He would rather live and be free. Brass comments that this coward's death will be his tongue, and, insulted by this, the man swings his massive axe. Brass catches it in one hand, and then finishes his statement. This coward's death will be his tongue, and his failure to recognize his own limitations. Then Brass's other hand grabs the escapee's throat and snaps it. Since Matt and Sharif are building a party of heroes, there are really only 2 ways to build enemies for them. Either make a singularly powerful entity that it will have to take all of them to combat, or they need to put together a group that they can fight. And, obviously, we're getting a not quite a team, and this scene is meant to be an introductive shorthand for them. While, sure, we don't know everything about this group, we know that Bullgrim, whatever it is is tied to his vessel, who seems to have some will of her own, but little ability. Brass Demur is a dangerous physical threat. He is cold and methodical. We don't know much about the specifics of their killing methods, as it mostly happens off-panel, but we know that they can kill with a passion. I think that the final page here, where Brass kills the axe guy, is a bit unnecessary and over the top. We know that Brass is cold-hearted. He is a maximum security prisoner, and we know that he's deadly, as we saw him kill an armored Lars with one hand and the monk in our last issue. In fact, I would rather that this scene just end when Brass killed Lars, as it is much more ominous, and it leaves me wondering and hungry for more. Bulgrim's vessel's skin tone changes here as well. When she's first shown approaching the outpost, she has rich brown skin, but once Bulgrim manifests, her skin turns white. Like, pale white. I'm not sure what skin tone she is supposed to have at this point, as she does have very European features, or if this is somehow a side effect of Bulgrim's manifestation. It could honestly go either ways. If Bulgrim is some kind of magical entity, then really Sharif and Mad can make up whatever they want for him to be able to do. So I'm not sure if this is a coloring error or an unexplained plot point regarding Bulgrim. The issue then moves to Garrison's standoff with Knolan and Calibretto. Garrison warns them both. Either they hand over the girl, or they will die. Knolan replies that he's ready to go. But it's Gully who manages to stop everything. Having come to after her kidnapping, she shoves past Calibretto, demanding to know why her group is being attacked. Garrison pulls back the long hair from his face. Doesn't she recognize him? He's Garrison. Gully does appear to know who he is, but she isn't happy about it yet. Calibretto whispers to Knolan, asking if it should intervene, but Knolan tells it to stay put for now. This gives Gully a chance to tell Garrison everything that she had been through recently. And honestly, Garrison is just relieved to find that she's okay. He's also impressed by how much she's grown. I mean, she's got to be, 8 years old now? Gully corrects him. She'll be 10 and a half soon. That takes Garrison back. Has it really been that long? Gully goes on to tell him that Aramis never stopped talking about him. He loved Garrison like a son. And yeah, Garrison agrees that they certainly were close. Then why did Garrison go away? Gully asks angrily. The question fills the space between them. Gully continues after a moment. If Aramis thought that Garrison was in trouble, he would have moved mountains to help him. But where has Garrison been since Aramis went missing? Did he even try to look for him? Did he ever care about them? Garrison tries to explain what happened. He honestly wants to, but Gully isn't interested in hearing it. She shouts at him to leave her alone, and then she runs into the woods. Before Garrison can chase her, Calibretto stands before him. The reunion's over. Knolan chimes in next, asking Garrison to give the girl some space. She's been through a lot, and she needs time. But Knolan has heard of the universe's greatest swordsman, aka Garrison, so he invites him along to come see the Wizard of Oz, King Veneer. After some time to cool down, it might help Gully to have Garrison around. But he declines. Not only does Gully clearly not want him around, but Garrison and Veneer aren't really on speaking terms. Knowing that Gully has good people watching over her is good enough for him. Knolan and the party start to leave, the old man telling Garrison to get some rest. He looks terrible. While I think that some of the dialogue from Gully is a tad stereotypical, the scene overall plays well. We get more depth to Garrison from his conversations with Gully and Knolan, and he does some brief narration as the scene starts. It doesn't continue through the rest of the issue almost at all, other than briefly appearing at the end, and all it really does is give us a look at how Garrison thinks. It doesn't do anything major, which is why I didn't mention it happening. This is the first time that Garrison hints at his almost addiction-like need to wield the sword, cursing himself for even thinking about it at the beginning of this scene. He also appears to recognize Knolan's name when Gully says it, although it's unclear if that is the case. I like Garrison a lot more here. He feels much more human to me. Calibretto's protectiveness of Gully is adorable. Like I said, they are pretty much inseparable for the rest of this book. And it's Gully who displays perhaps the deepest levels of emotion here, both in her dialogue and in her artwork. Despite Garrison clearly being a friend of the family who might as well be family, Gully never feels happy to see him. She is withdrawn and suspicious the whole time, her head tilted down with an arm behind her back. Yes, she knows Garrison, and sure, he could be a big help to her in her situation, but all that she sees is another person who left her. Having lost her father, her nanny, and her home all in one night is too much for her, so she pushes him away. That is some good storytelling for a 10-year-old. And apparently I'm about as good at guessing the age of a child as Garrison. In Capital City, King Veneer stands in his war room, overlooking a map of the civilized/unified territories. He's mulling over the needless deaths at Outpost Zeta. If it's already fallen, then the escapees are likely in Capital City now, and more people will die. And how right Veneer is. One of the escapees, a small green man with a large cylindrical head, floats outside of the balcony. He goes unnamed in this scene, but we will learn that he is named... Cranius. He tells Veneer that they only want one man, the martial paladin who captured them all. In exchange, they'll leave Capital City untouched. Veneer tells Cranius that he cannot do that. Cranius then excuses himself. They have a city to burn. A trio of guards rushes in, claiming to have heard a commotion. I'm not 100% sure about what commotion they're referring to, but I do have a guess that I'll get to. The king tells the guards to summon their captain, and soon, Clavius, the knight from issue 2, meets with the king. Veneer tells Clavius of the situation. He orders him to block the routes into and out of Capital City. His men are to focus on saving the wounded, not engaging with any hostiles. Clavius is confused by this tactic. There are only a small number of escapees. They could bring the whole weight of the royal guard upon them. But Veneer knows that more people would die needlessly from such an action. So he tells Clavius to STFU and do as he's told. Clavius bows and gets to work, leaving Veneer to watch Capital City burn from his balcony. Only one man can save them now, and the narrative then moves to Garrison. So we got to see a little bit of personality from Veneer here, largely his concern about the lives of his people. He mourns the losses at Outpost Zeta and orders Clavius to help people instead of fighting. This is either a clever tactic to keep his military forces staffed instead of spending their lives fruitlessly. Or maybe he's actually concerned for their lives. That is possible. So let's get back to that commotion I mentioned. When Cranius says that they have a city to burn, it's shown to us through a dialogue box on the next page. When we hear it, he is long gone. But when we finally see what Veneer is looking at, smoke clouds are billowing up from Capital City, so the attack has already begun. Given those flames, we can guess that explosions happened off-panel between pages, and that is the commotion that the guards are referring to. If this is the case, then I commend Sharif and Mad for their nice use of the gutters, or the space between panels, to manipulate time and our narrative. But it's such an unexpected move, and so unusual for their writing style so far in Battle Chasers, that it is very jarring, and it took me quite a bit of time to kind of come up with this theory/idea. Alright, so we were at Garrison, right? He's in the woods. There's no narration box to tell us where exactly, and he stands before a headstone. A bundle of wrapped roses rest in his arms as he speaks to Viona, his wife. He's planning on leaving soon, and he wants her to know. He did his best to forget her, to drink the pain away. But he cannot do it anymore. The only thing keeping him together is his promise to never use the sword again, to leave all of that anger and violence behind him. But thinking of the promise makes him think of the sword, and he can almost feel it calling to him, yearning to turn him into... Maestro interrupts the sentence, finishing it, to turn him into the man he is destined to become. Garrison is upset that the sanctity of his wife's resting place has been disturbed, but Maestro doesn't care. Capital City needs Garrison. He'll explain more along the way. Garrison protests this, but Maestro pushes on. There are 4 enhanced criminals on the loose in the city. All of them had been imprisoned by Garrison, and they're only demanding him. No one is quite sure how they got free, other than a liberation attempt at Skyhold. Garrison realizes that it was Monika's job that led to this, but he doesn't tell Maestro that. Instead, he argues that he's retired and that Veneer has plenty of men at his disposal. Let them fight. Maestro backhands Garrison, raging at his selfishness. How many of those men will die? How many of them fought beside Garrison, put their lives on the line alongside him? Maestro taught him better than that. So if he needs to remind Garrison by force, then he'll do it. He grabs Garrison by his shirt and shoves him against a headstone. Garrison wipes at the blood running down his face. He remembers Maestro's teachings all right. But the one thing that he learned by himself is that the greatest blows are often struck from within. Maestro's eyes thin. He grabs the hilt of his sword. Then he has one final lesson to teach. In the blink of an eye, Maestro strikes Viona's tombstone, and then sheathes his blade. The stone cracks. Garrison's eyes go wide. While it may be possible for him to hide from his past, one cannot hide from their destiny. The stones fall away, revealing the sword held inside. The blade's tip is still held in the stone's base, allowing it to stand upright. It is easily 4 or 5 feet long here, with a 2-handed hilt wrapped in black cloth with a red handle showing through. A complicated guard of chitinous material connects the blade and the hilt, fanning out in almost like 2 wings. A circle with a split down the center occupies the center space of the guard. Broken, Garrison kneels in its shadow. Maestro continues. The longer the Garrison runs from his path, the more tortured that he'll become. Maestro understands Garrison's grief, and if Garrison doesn't act, hundreds more will share it. The sword doesn't have to be a curse. It can also be Capital City's salvation. From 0 to 60 on Garrison's backstory in this issue, huh? As cliched as Garrison's motivation and backstory is, an angry young man tamed by love, then broken by loss, I'd have to say that it works. Reading this scene again, I'm just so into the somber mood, aided by Liquid's blue tones and Joe Mad's use of spot blacks and spare backgrounds. I am a bit confused as to the general timeline of Garrison's life up to this point, though. First off, I'm not sure of Garrison's military career. We're told that Garrison clearly has a relationship with Aramis, who is both a hero and appears to be some form of military. The painting that we saw of Aramis and Garrison back in issue 2 clearly shows him in a military uniform that seems to match the theming of the military uniform that Garrison is wearing. But this scene tells us that Garrison is a martial paladin and that he worked with or under Maestro. So did Garrison start in the military and then become a martial paladin, which he then left in order to marry his wife and retire? Because I've kind of had the impression that Garrison served with/under Aramis, but maybe that's not the case. And if that is the case, when did Garrison pull away from Aramis and Gully? Did he leave when he married Viona? When she died? I just don't quite know. Maybe Viona died after Aramis went missing, so his household wouldn't have known anyways, and Gully's anger is really being misfired. Because Garrison clearly had his sword worked into Viona's headstone, so he clearly hasn't been using it since at least her death. Now, None of these questions are pressing, and they don't need an answer right now, but they are answers that should shape Gully and Garrison's relationship, and so I do want to know more about them. Also, this is totally a Spider-Man plotline. Peter Parker retires from being Spider-Man, which he did multiple times. The Sinister Six get together and then they attack J. Jonah Jameson so that he'll print their challenge in the Daily Bugle, and then Peter is torn between personal happiness and his responsibility to stop the Sinister Six and save the city. Maestro's line about fighting for the greater good totally triggered that line of thinking for me. Well, that and the scene from Hot Fuzz. Our band of merry travelers finally reaches Capital City, but they find it in flames. Calibretto spots Cranius quickly, identifying him as a high-level mage. And if he is a mage, then Knolan has to stop him. Magic is literally his thing, Gully says. Knolan protests this. What is he, a superhero? Like this is some kind of comic book? What are you, crazy? But Knolan caves at the young girl's insistence, and her giant, adorable sad eyes. He makes her promise to find safety, then summons Nimbus, and then goes to do battle. Gully waits until he's gone, and then she immediately starts to help the wounded, much to Calibretto's chagrin. Knolan interrupts Cranius' counting of his kills, which ticks him the heck off. Cranius launches an energy blast at Knolan, which he blocks, and the old man summons the roof tiles off of a nearby building. The debris crashes into Cranius, and Knolan hopes that it crushes him. Cranius detonates the tiles, though, laughing madly as he does so. Then he stretches out a short, chubby hand and closes it. Knolan suddenly gasps. His heart has stopped. Calibretto and Gully, meanwhile, are rooting through debris. Calibretto advises against this course of action, but Gully is sure that she saw someone inside of this building. They clear a path into the demolished house, and sure enough, there is someone there. And it's Bulgrim's vessel. Gully tries to help her up, and she notices her bracelet, complimenting her on it. Bulgrim suddenly explodes from the ground, easily as large as Calibretto, all red skin and muscles and horns. If the girl likes his bracelet so much, then maybe she can spend eternity inside of it. We end the issue back in the Cyrene Valley at Garrison's house. We can hear the snip of scissors as we close in on it. Then we cut to a photo of Viona inside of a locket, which snaps shut. His hair cut, his uniform on, his sword sheathed to his back, Garrison apologizes for betraying his wife's trust and asks her to forgive him. This is a weird last-minute ramp-up at the end of this issue. I get it, Sharif and Mad want to end on an exciting cliffhanger. I don't blame them. This is cliffhanger comics, right? But the story beats feel so off for that kind of a maneuver here, especially since we, as an audience, know that the vessel is Bulgrim's vessel, so him manifesting before Gully isn't a surprise. Then, when we end on Garrison's preparations, that's another build to action. It should be leading us to the next issue, which it does, but we just got a build to action when Gully, Calibretto, and Knolan got to Capital City. We should be done with the action. Traditionally, with a comic book, you either open with an action scene, then slow down, and then ramp up to action again at the end, leaving the reader wanting more, or you open slowly, with a problem that gets resolved, the cast spends the issue dealing with the fallout, and then you present a new problem at the end in order to ramp things back up. But here we start with an action sequence, slow down, go back to an action sequence, and then hit the brakes for a quiet, slow moment ending. That's weird. Also, and this is totally just my own tastes, Garrison looked better with longer hair and stubble. I'll say it. I don't like prepared Garrison. Although, I did like the issue overall. I would like to point out, before we part, that issue 4 has 4 variant covers, one featuring each member of the cast except for Red Monika. But, printed on the backs of each of those comics is 1/4 of a painted image of Red Monika done by artist Joe Chiodo. I actually didn't know this going into this streak of episodes. I knew about the covers being different, sure, and the only one that I have was the one with Calibretto on it. I'm not a terribly big fan of paying for multiple copies of a comic just to have more covers, but I do have to say, I kind of like this idea. Issue 4 is now able to present you with all 5 characters, and the Red Monika image is almost a reward for collecting all of the other ones. Admittedly, I do think that Red Monika is a little too cartoonish for me to, display on one of my walls, but I do like the idea of going, hey, we have a cast of 5 characters, and each one now has a cover to themselves. The covers for issue 1 and 2 were both group shots, and then issue 3 was a solo shot of Monika. So getting everybody to kind of have a moment of spotlight here with issue 4 is kind of neat, and it's kind of cute. I might need to get all of these covers. My collector senses are a-tingling. Next week, our chasers finally catch a battle. Calibretto and Gully face the Djinni might of Bulgrim. Knolan does magical battle with Cranius. Garrison duels Brass Demur. And then, in issue 6, Monika finally meets her mysterious employer as Capital City begins to pick up the pieces from the attack. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.